Welcome to Marketing Demystified, the podcast that connects the dots for business leaders to drive revenue through effective marketing strategy. We chat with marketing experts on different topics that will help you ramp up your revenue. We stream live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms. Marketing Demystified, the podcast, is presented to you by GrowGetter, your partner in growth marketing. And here's today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered with actionable tips to transform your marketing game? You're in the right place. Welcome to Marketing Demystified. I'm your host, Jen Mancusi, CEO and co-founder of GrowGetter, your growth marketing partner. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to chat with a longtime business leader and the person who got us to put the links in our LinkedIn comments. He's currently on a quest to help people transform their lives. His new book, Think Remarkable: 9 Paths to Transform Your Life and Make a Difference, is out now. I'm so excited to chat with Guy Kawasaki on today's episode of Marketing Demystified. Welcome to the show, Guy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm in a hotel room in Austin, Texas right now. So I don't want to show you the other half of this room.
I'm sure it's pristine and perfect, and that's how we'll visualize it. Well, thank you so much for joining today. It is a big day. You've got a big book launch that your new book is out today. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's out as of last night at, 9 p.m. East, 9 p.m. Pacific. But yeah, it's out today.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me on your big launch day. We're going to talk about the book, and I'm really excited to get into that. Before we dive into your remarkable book,
thank you. Right after this, I'm going to go buy cowboy boots at Allen's Boots in Austin.
That sounds like a great next step, actually. I need some cowboy boots myself. Maybe I'll have to head down there. And I'm sure there's lots of other fun things happening around South by Southwest this week, and You'll be taking the stage. Is that right?
Twice, actually.
Amazing. Amazing. So big week. Thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me. So before we dive into your book, the whole LIC, link in comments experiment, you did this in 2017 and it still has legs today. I mean, where did that start and why do you think it's, such a big thing even still?
I just missed what you just asked. I'm sorry because violating all HIPAA agreements, I'm actually deaf, so I use a cochlear implant. So I just missed that question. So if you could just repeat that question.
Of course. I'm just wondering about the link in comments experiment that you did in 2017. Why do you think that really, had such legs and still does today?
Jen, oh my God. I gotta tell you, I'm sitting here and I'm racking my brain. What is she talking about? LinkedIn comments? What did I tell you? That's 6 years ago.
Oh, gosh. Well, you are famous for being the one who kind of brought that concept to LinkedIn, that you, instead of putting hyperlinks in the actual post, that you put LIC, link in comments. And that has been such a big trend for the LinkedIn algorithms, sort of to trick LinkedIn into thinking, into getting more views on your posts. And so I was curious about that. The longevity there, but clearly it's not the most remarkable thing that you've done.
Well, I've been working with Peg Fitzpatrick for, my God, it's got to be 10 years now. And we were constantly in a state of experimentation. It started on Twitter. And on Twitter, we had this early theory that every tweet should go out with a picture or a video. And then we had a theory on Twitter that it's okay to repeat the identical tweets multiple times a day. And that was really contrary to what most people were saying, that people would be, started getting frustrated with multiple repeat tweets. And we found that to be absolutely not true. So putting links in the comments, it's just another experiment we tried, and we're always trying to optimize social media. Peg Fitzpatrick has gone on her own path, and if you want to learn about social media, you can always follow Peg Fitzpatrick. So, um, but the marketing has changed so much. It's such a dynamic world, and I think that while change is a challenge, change is also good because change creates opportunities for people who are trying to break into the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right in that it's always changing, and that sort of mindset of experimentation is so important. So thanks for indulging me in that question. um,
Well,
but getting into your book, I'm really excited to get my hands on it and read it. What prompted you to write this book in the first place?
so I have a podcast called Remarkable People. And guess what? We interview remarkable people. And these are people like Jane Goodall and Stacey Abrams, Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General. And for people in sales and marketing, you'll especially recognize the names of David Ocker, the father of branding, Bob Cialdini, the father of influence, Carol Dweck, the mother of growth. So we have all these outstanding, remarkable interviews, and we've done it for about 5 years. So now we have about 250 hours of podcasts and 5,000 pages of transcripts. And we looked at that and we said, yeah, that's asking a lot for people to go listen to all that and read all those transcripts. So we ought to digest this down into a book. And using my filter of being on the front lines for about 40 or 50 years, we took 5,000 pages down to 170 pages. And this is my 16th book. So I'm very familiar with writing business books. And I'm afraid that the old formula of you take 250 pages to explain one concept, this is how to pivot, 250 pages of descriptions on how to pivot or how to cross the chasm. I don't think that length and that perspective works anymore. So we have 170 pages with 88 techniques to make a difference and be remarkable, because we think that on average, people want to read about 2 or 3 pages about a technique and just get to it. And so that's our design center. We want this to be, it's as if you don't need the Cliff Notes version of this book. This book is the Cliff Notes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, my attention span, like I've got 2 or 3 pages in me for one concept, and so I love
Yeah.
that. I mean, I mean, going back to maybe the start of the podcast, even what is the significance of the word remarkable for you? What makes somebody remarkable?
Yeah. So uh, this goes back to our podcast, right? And we were searching for a name. One of the hardest things is to find a podcast name or a book title. My God, we went back and forth on this book title and the subtitle. I have PTSD from trying to select the subtitle. And remarkable has a very good connotation. It's more than just good, and great is overused. And so, there's only so many words that denote greatness and remarkableness and standoutness and all this stuff. So we searched and searched, and then we found the word remarkable, and then think remarkable and remarkable people. I was able to get the domain. So as marketers, you'll appreciate, there's a lot of steps to picking a name, and you know including the availability of the domain, and is there anything similar, and oh my God, it's like trauma to figure out a name. But for me, remarkable means that you make a difference. And the podcast is called Remarkable People, not rich people, not famous people. And the book is called Think Remarkable, not think rich or not think famous. So for me, remarkable means you've made a difference. And I don't want people to get the wrong impression that remarkable means you have to be Steve Jobs or Jane Goodall or, God help you, Elon Musk. It just means that you have made a difference. It could make a difference to just one life. one pond, one lake, one team, one classroom. I had breakfast this morning with a high school English teacher from Rogue River, Oregon, population 2,500. And she has made a remarkable difference in her students. She's been teaching for 20 years. A sixth grade teacher made a remarkable difference in my life. I could tell you, as a class of people, the most remarkable class, in my humble opinion, is teachers.
Mm, absolutely. And, you mentioned before, this is your, I think you said 17th business
60.
book, 16th business book. So even as you're describing this, remarkable people and how to make a difference and how to transform your life, is this a business book or is it a personal book? Or in this context, is there a difference?
Okay, so I was having this discussion with this teacher this morning. So, let's say that you're Walter Isaacson and you write a book about Elon Musk. And you get coverage in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Business Insider. You get covered by every business publication because everybody's interested in Elon Musk. Well, come to find out, there only may be 300,000 people or 400,000 people who are interested in Elon Musk. And I asked her, so, your high school teacher, Rogue River, Oregon, are you going to buy a book about Elon Musk? Nope. Are you going to tell your students to read a book about Elon Musk? Nope. So, you want a book that will help them with their life, their direction. Yeah, something along the lines of the 4 agreements, or, something that is applicable to their lives, as opposed to reading about Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or somebody like that. And so this book is for anybody who wants to make a difference. And I have particularly geared it towards Gen Z, using Gen Z examples like Olivia Juliana and Mark Rober that many people, boomers, may never have heard of. But Olivia Juliana, and Mark Rober and those kind of people, those are the people that Gen Z look up to.
Yeah. So there is something sort of personal about the learnings that just can be applied in all areas of your
Oh,
life, whether
yeah.
it's business or personal.
Absolutely. It's business and personal. If you never, ever work in a tech company, this book is still perfectly suited for you because the 3 sections are about growth, grit, and grace. And so this means that we're using the works of Carol Dweck, who was on our podcast, and Angela Duckworth, who was on our podcast. And I think the person that most personifies grace is Jane Goodall. So those are the kind of people that are held up, for their information and for their inspiration. It's not just a bunch of, tech bros that I'm trying to appeal to. In fact, I have no interest in appealing to tech bros. I want to help high school and college students. I think one of the most common use cases for this book will be that parents are going to buy the book for their kids, and basically, or they may not put it this way, but basically they're going to say, you don't listen to me, read this book. This guy used to be the chief evangelist of Apple. You love your Macintosh and phone. This guy is the chief evangelist of Canva. You use Canva every day to make graphics. So listen to this guy talk about how to be remarkable and make a difference, because you're clearly not listening to me.
I love that. This is for all you parents out there. This is the way to get your kids to listen to you, is to share all the expertise that's packed in this book.
I'm trying. And you know
There
what? Well, I want you parents to understand that I have 4 kids and they range in age from 18 to 30. And so I'm talking from firsthand experience. And I want you to be sure to understand that I have 4 kids. So the kids outnumber the adults. It used to be we could double team our first kid, and then we had 2 kids, so now it's 1-on-1, and then we had 3 kids, so that we had to play zone, and now we have 4 kids, so we really are playing zone defense. And when the kids outnumber the adults, that's when you truly appreciate what it takes to parent.
Mm, yeah. And it does take a village, and maybe this book can be
It
part of your.
does. It really does.
I think my son's a little too young for it, but I'll hold it for him for maybe the next 10 years or so. Um,
How
but
old is he?
my son is 8, and so he's not quite ready for growth, grit, and grace, I don't think.
Well,
Definitely not
actually, you
really.
know what? I mean, okay,
You never
just
know.
seriously,
Yeah.
I think that at 8, you should teach him that, yes, you're maybe a natural at math or a natural at physics or a natural at basketball or football, but beginning that young, you should teach your kids that this may come easy, but you need to try stuff that's difficult. And just because something is hard for you, making the transition from basketball to surfing, just because something is hard doesn't mean that you're not suited for it. Because very few things that when you first start, you immediately pick up. And so the thinking that if it's not easy, I'm not good at it is a very, very mistaken perspective. Like when you take up new things, you probably will suck at it. And so, son, you need to understand you make these transitions, you make these changes, and it's going to take grit. Angela Duckworth, who played a big role in this book and is a very close friend, in her family, she has this rule that you have to pick something to do that's challenging. It cannot be easy, and you have to stick with it, and you cannot quit in the middle of the stream. You can only quit on a high point.
Hmm.
And I think that is a very good way to bring up kids that you got to try something, you got to work at it. You can't quit. If we signed you up for 10 weeks of tennis, you can't quit in the 5th week. You can quit on the 10th week and never play again, but you cannot quit in the middle.
Mm. That's such good advice. And I mean, good for adults and kids too. And, as you're talking about maybe the sections of the book, this growth and grit and grace, do you think that everyone is capable of, can everybody develop a growth mindset? Can everyone adopt that sort of grit? Um,
Well, everyone is a pretty strong word. There are clearly
right.
people who, just they cannot embrace a growth mindset. And there's really two kinds of people like that who have a fixed mindset. There's the fixed mindset person who just will not open her or himself up to vulnerability and failure and, just doesn't want to try anything new. And that's pretty sad. But there's also another form of sadness, which is, let's say that you are really great at something, comes naturally, right? And then some people, believe it or not, they have a fixed mindset that, yeah, I'm really good at math and I don't want to try surfing because I know I'm going to suck. And so people will get the impression that maybe I'm not such a natural great person because I suck at something, and it'll also affect my self-image. So even though I'm great at one thing, I'm not going to try anything else new because I don't want to affect my self-image and my image among other people. And I mean, that's almost as sad, right? That you don't want to risk something even though you're good at something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can relate to that. Growing up, that's exactly how I was. I didn't do anything that didn't come easy to me. I only did the things that I was a natural at, and it's forced me to try new things in adulthood that people have been doing their whole lives, like running, for example. Like I never ran my whole childhood. I didn't play sports. It was too hard for me, and it's just in adulthood that I'm literally learning how to run, which sounds silly because I
Yeah,
think people
well,
just know
okay.
how, but this is the journey I'm on.
Well, Jen, I have, you're obviously not 60. So I just want to point out to you that I read Carol Dweck's book Mindset, and it fundamentally changed my perspective on life. And some of the ramifications of that is that at age 44, I took up ice hockey, having never skated in my life.
Wow.
And that's about 40 years too late. I come from Hawaii, and there's no pond hockey. There's no frozen ponds and lakes in Hawaii. I mean, we have shave ice, but that's about as close as we get. And then at 60, my daughter, I was 60, she was not 60. She took up surfing in a big way, and I took up surfing in a big way. And let's just say that starting surfing at 60 is about 55 years too late. So, Jen, I don't know how old you are, but subtract your age from 60, and that number in that many years, I want you to take up surfing.
I think that I can take that on for sure. I took a surfing lesson once when I was younger. I did okay at it, but I haven't picked it up since. So I'll commit to that. Between sometime in the next 20 years, I will.
Okay.
I will I'll make that
You don't
promise.
want to peak too early.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you talk about how maybe sometimes going for your passion is not the right advice or not the best direction to go in. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you mean by that? Like, what
Yeah.
is the right path for
So
being
I,
a marketer?
I think that maybe only in American society, but there's this like pressure to find your passion. And, like at an extreme, it's 18, you're 18 or 19 years old. You haven't found your passion yet. I mean, you haven't started a not-for-profit in Africa. You haven't won a Nobel Prize. You haven't, gotten into your top 4 choices in the Ivy League. You had a difficult time writing your college essay because you couldn't talk about how you've dedicated your life to one cause. And I think that is a humongous disservice to youth, that there's this pressure to find this passion and this life calling at a young age. My advice is that you have open eyes and open hearts and open minds, and you get interested in a lot of things. So you may be interested in violin, you get interested in surfing, or get interested in math or crochet or running, and you pursue these interests, and knock on wood, maybe some of them will turn into true passions and true loves. But life is about sampling. You got to take a lot of samples to figure out what you want to do. So I suggest to people that you pursue interests, and you hope that those interests with a lower fence become passions, but you'd not try to find passions, love at first sight, something you dedicate your life to after a very short exposure.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that, it's hard. There's a balance, right? Because people feel like there is so much pressure to find your passion. And I think there's this maybe misconception that you can't pivot. Once you kind of land in that first role after college, let's say,
Yeah.
that, you're not going to have experience to do something else.
You
So
know
you'll
what?
be behind.
That in 2024, that is very antiquated thinking. And
Yeah.
the reason why it's so inappropriate now is because the lifespan, if you're 19 or 20 right now, you're gonna live to 90 or 95 or 100. You probably got 50 or 60 good years in you. And 50 or 60 good years, you can try a lot of things. You can be a lot of things. So I I talk to college graduates all the time, and they're so worried about finding that perfect first job, and they should chillax, because you're going to have a lot of jobs in your life, and I really think there is more or less no bad job. Because let's take the worst case. You go to work for a company and it implodes, and you're frustrated, and you work for a crappy boss and all that. Yeah, yeah, yes, all of that is crappy, but you know what? You're probably going to learn more from a bad experience than a good experience. And knock on wood, let's say that you grab the brass ring, you thread the needle, you find this perfect startup, and this startup just goes to the moon. So now you're 25 and you're worth $50 million, and you think, oh my God, I did this absolutely right. And from a financial standpoint, maybe you did, but now you're stuck. You're 25 years old, you're worth more money than you ever thought. You don't know what you want to do with your life. And you also, I think the biggest danger in that situation is that you will have a very hard time separating correlation from causation, which is that if you're 20 and you jump on a rocket and at 25 you're set for life, you're probably going to think that you caused that because you're such a magnificent person. Probably you just got lucky. And so you'll have a hard time separating correlation from causation, and you may be an indignant schmuck for the rest of your life.
I think that's the goal, is to not be that, right? Let's try not to be the indignant.
What happened?
Uh-oh. We
We're
lose you.
back.
There you go. Yeah, that's the goal. Let's try not to be the indignant schmuck. Careers.
These are high bars I've set for myself.
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, those pressures are real, and I think too, something that we're seeing now is this shift in, just how companies are hiring. It's happened over the last several years. Like, you don't necessarily need a degree in a certain thing to get a particular role anymore, and companies are a lot more open to hiring people from, diverse experiences, diverse backgrounds. It's no longer the case that you have to start from the beginning, entry level, if you want to make a pivot in your career or in the types of roles that you're doing. So I think you're right. It is an antiquated concept, but that pressure, that sort of societal pressure, is still there.
Yeah, I think it's an antiquated concept. And what I advise young people to do is that, there's really two facets to the growth mindset. One is the facet in your head. Like, in your head, are you thinking you can grow? Can you change? Can you try new things? Are you open to vulnerability, open to being wounded, open to failure? But that's in your head. But you also exist in an environment. So in the environment that you work, is this an environment where there's growth, there's learning, there's failure, that you can ask any question? Because someone with a growth mindset in a fixed mindset environment is going to be very unhappy. So you need to be a growth mindset in a growth environment. Now, the real question becomes, how do you tell if an organization has a growth mindset? And from the outside looking in, look for things like, is there training? Is there learning programs? Is there easy ways to transfer departments? How is the company rated for opportunity for growth on Glassdoor? And a real tell is, do they maintain DEI programs? I mean, are they searching for diversity? Because companies that support diversities are companies that support learning and growth. And what you want to avoid is this kind of company that has the genius mindset. And I mean that as a negative. The genius mindset is, we hire only A+ players. They are geniuses. They are great from day one. They don't need to learn. They don't need to grow. We're just a bunch of elite geniuses in this company. And if you're not a genius, you're just going to have a clerical position. You cannot ever grow because you're either a genius or not, and you cannot change that status. When you find that kind of company, just get out of there. Just get out of there. Even if you're a genius, just get out of there.
Just run as fast as you can. That's good advice. Now, I'm thinking about if people are on the road to becoming remarkable, and that's their objective, to really make a difference as you describe it. Certainly there's going to be setbacks. What are some of those, and what tips could you offer for people to overcome those setbacks in their own life?
So sure, listen, in all my interviews of the people and what got into the book, there are a lot of people who had setbacks who became remarkable. So first of all, you have to understand that setbacks and failures, it's just a cost of living that happens. And maybe on the outside looking in, you read this profile in Forbes about how somebody did everything perfectly, threaded the needle. And I dare say, if you really checked, you'll find out that they made a lot of mistakes too. They just don't remember them, or they refuse to accept them. So number one is expect setbacks. Prepare yourself mentally. Don't get into this mood that, oh my God, you know it's got to be perfect the first time or it's wrong. So brace yourself for vulnerability and wounds. And the second thing is, understand that failure is bad. It's not okay to fail. It's not, something like you just fail and you pivot and life is good, because you read that from some Silicon Valley tech bro who said, fail fast. You should do everything you can not to fail, because failure wastes money and time and people's lives. Now, having said that, doing the best you can to avoid failure, you still will fail. But then you need to accept that failure is a form of teaching. So from your failure, learn what not to do next, so you don't fail or you don't fail at all, or at least you don't fail in the same way. You could make the case that life is about learning to fail different every time.
That's interesting. Yeah. Learn to don't make the same exact mistake. But if it's a little different, then you're probably on that path of progress. But I mean, I'm a big believer that just like nothing in the universe happens by mistake. Like it takes the pressure off of me and sort of my controlling way of thinking. Like it's not possible for me to make a wrong decision as long as I have the right intentions, right? Like the universe, there's a reason why
Yeah.
it's
Well,
maybe a mistake, maybe a failure, but there's a learning opportunity for it. There's always a reason.
Well, Steve Jobs, in his commencement address at Stanford, said this really well, that the only way you can connect the dots is looking backwards. And
Mm,
so, maybe you didn't get into the college you wanted, or maybe you didn't get that perfect job or that perfect internship, but you really don't know the outcome of that, maybe for 20 years. So, give yourself a break and just keep showing up. Andrew Zimmern, who played a big role in my podcast and in this book. Andrew Zimmern is the guy with the Bizarre Foods show, where he
mhm.
goes all over the world eating bizarre foods, and
Yeah.
James Beard Award winner, et cetera, et cetera. And he had a concept when he was 30. He, believe it or not, he had an internship at 3 companies at the same time. And he said, Guy, here's my advice. My advice is you wake up and you think, how can I make myself indispensable?
Mm.
And the way you make you make yourself indispensable is you show up every day and you do whatever anybody asks you to do. You just grit it out, because when all is said and done, the people who are indispensable, they are the people who get the opportunities. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to put as little as I can and just do the minimum to be successful, I think that is a very suboptimal perspective. You need to make yourself indispensable. I mean, think of the people that are indispensable in your lives, right? How did they get that way? It wasn't because they did the minimum. It's because they did the maximum.
Mhm.
And so you keep showing up. You do what no one else wants to do. If you're working for a TV station and they say someone needs to lay a cable, you raise your hand. And Andrew Zimmern said they were looking for someone to set up lighting. I said, I raised my hand. And they were looking for someone to edit video. I raised my hand. So, and that's why Andrew Zimmern is Andrew Zimmern. And he's like this mini mogul of food reporting and journalism and life. And that's because he made himself indispensable. So I'm telling you, all you young people out there, I mean, yes, you want to work remotely and you don't want to have a quality of life and all that, but I'm telling you, make yourself indispensable for the long run win.
Mm. That's great advice. I love that, and we're all going to be out here trying to make a difference. That's our goal, and how we get to be remarkable. So I can't thank you enough for taking some time on your very busy launch day to chat with me and our audience
Thank you.
today.
And because you listen to I mean, so many of your listeners are sales and marketing people. Can I give you some advice for them?
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, I think that the key to sales is that you have the other person's best interest at heart. It's not about your salary, your bonus, your quota. The great salespeople, they have the other person's interests at heart. So if you're selling a Macintosh or you're selling Canva, I truly do believe that if you use a Macintosh, you'll be more creative and productive. And if you use Canva, you will be a better communicator. Now, don't get me wrong. It's good for me if you use the Macintosh back then, and it's good for me now if you use Canva. But I truly do believe that it is good for you too. So if you want to be a great salesperson, align yourself or create something or sell something that you believe is good for the other person. And my second piece of advice is you need to develop your empathy. Your empathy so you understand, what is this customer going through? And there's two ways to do this. One is you go and see the customer actually living and actually doing and actually using your product or your competitor's product. But I would say even better than that, you actually be your customer. So let's use a car example. If you want to truly understand what people need in a car, yes, you can go watch them use it, but it would be even better if you actually used it. So if you wanted to understand, what makes a great minivan, well, you and your spouse take your two kids with your two strollers and your two baby bags and your two car seats and go get a minivan, and you'll see what it takes to be a good minivan because you are the person who's using the minivan, not just watching the person using the minivan or not just reading some McKinsey study about the needs of young families for cars. You be the family, and that'll make you a much better salesperson.
That's such good, such a good tip. I think that that's a challenge a lot of companies or people within organizations have, is being so sort of internally or product focused and not customer
Yeah,
focused.
think
Um,
and you know what? I mean, can I just finish off by saying that, listen, when I die, I want I want you to say that I helped you make a difference. I
mm.
help you change the world, dent the universe, make a difference, and be remarkable. And I want that said, that with my writing and my speaking and my podcasting and my investing and my advising and my my virtual conferences like this, I helped you make a difference. That's my scorecard. And Think Remarkable represents what I learned from 250 interviews and 40 years of working on the front line. This is not some BS high level strategic, kind of book. This is nitty gritty hand to hand combat. And this is the best book I've ever written. And I hope that you enjoyed it. It helps you, as I say, make a difference.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing so freely all of your experience and the conversations that you've had over these years. I'm really excited to dig into the book. Everyone out there, please go. You can get the book on Amazon and in bookstores and
Yep.
directly from Guy. So go check it out. Listen to Guy's podcast, Remarkable People. And thank you again so much.
And Jen, don't wait till you're 60 to start surfing. Okay. Take your 8-year-old and start now.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, come to Santa Cruz and we will teach you how to surf.
Perfect. I'll hold you to it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Um,
Thank you.
thanks
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Thanks everyone for listening in. We'll be back with another episode next week. I'll be chatting with Morgan Lehman, product marketing leader at SurveyMonkey.